Maybe you hear the latest news that Moment.js library was deprecated. This is why in this video I want to go through what is Moment.js library and what alternatives do you have to work with dates now in JavaScript. Hi, I'm ekaterina from Monsterlessons Academy, where I'm teaching you how to become a developer or improve your skills of being a developer in learning by doing way. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will link everything that I'm mentioning in the description box below. So let's jump right into it. So here I am now in the official website momentjs.com. And as you can see, there is a link to project status, and the most important part here is that Moment.js is considered the legacy project in maintenance mode. And it's not dead, but it is indeed done. What does it mean and what it is about at all? If you don't know what is Moment.js, it's like the most popular library to work with dates in JavaScript. And you might ask, is it not enough to just work in JavaScript with dates like we normally do? And yes, maybe for some small tasks it's enough, but if you want a lot of additional functions to work with dates like in easy way and not like struggling with them, then you need some additional library. Because you actually want a lot from dates, like parsing, manipulating dates, stringifying, unstringifying, and so on, working also with time zones or with translation of your dates, so it is quite a lot to cover on your own. And of course, natively in JavaScript, we don't have such functionality inside dates. And this is why Moment.js was created, and actually it was already 8 years ago, so it is really like old stuff. I rarely used it a lot before, and actually at some point I understood that this is too much for me, because the idea is that all functions inside Moment is just a huge bundle. So this means that you need to upload to your website everything at once. You can't just take a single function. Also, the most important part of Moment.js for me was this Moment time zone. You can see it here on the top. This is super efficient way to work with time zones, and this is super easy. But it is one more chunk that you need to add and install additionally to Moment.js. This is why it is quite a lot of JavaScript. Which brings us actually to some modern web technologies like tree shaking, which means you can just take one single function from the whole library, or at least that you have everything in common.js modules, and you can easily import or export in your project the function that you need. And this can't be done that easy in Moment.js because it was built really long ago. You have huge bundle, everything in a single object, and what is more important, everything is mutable. And as you already know in my other video, for example, if you didn't watch it, go watch it now, mutable versus immutable. Mutable is not really efficient and can lead to bugs, which means actually, for example, you are working with Moment and you have some function and you just want to manipulate your date. Normally you will think that you will get the new instance of Moment, or you will get just some response, but you won't really change the old date. But it's not the case with Moment. This is why actually it's not that safe to use, which is why I switched to more safer approach, and at that time, like maybe 4 years ago, it was already possible. There were two main libraries there. These are Luxon and Date-fns. And actually Luxon link you can see directly inside Moment.js.com. And this is because Luxon was built as a modern alternative to Moment by one of core developers of Moment.js. And this is the library that I really recommend using, and I used it a lot in all big projects. And there is also another library. Here is the official website of Luxon, moment.github.io/Luxon, and here is the official website of Date-fns. This is also really popular. And actually I can't really compare these two libraries because they are super similar. The idea is that everything is tree shakeable. You can just take single function. There are lots of functions to work with dates. Both these libraries work with translations and time zones. And actually I think for Date-fns you need to install extensions extension to work with time zones, and in Luxon it is natively. But you can get the same results and they're super similar. But from my perspective and my taste, I really liked Luxon more than Date-fns. I understand functions better, the documentation there is suited to me better. This is why I'm sticking with it. This is why I want to show you some examples how you can use Luxon in your project. So as you can see here, I have a simple index.html file, and here I have a script of Luxon. I just put it here from CDN and then my main.js. So now let's jump in main.js file. It is completely empty, and check how we can work with Luxon. So here I will console log result, for example, and let's create this variable result. So first of all, we install script of Luxon. We have Luxon globally, and there is different stuff inside Luxon. For example, to work with date or time, we are using date time part of Luxon. And here let's say that we want to get a local date. This is why we are writing here .local. And now let's check what we have in console. If I will reload the page, you can see that here is my date time, but this is not like JavaScript date time. You have here a lot of methods which exist only in Luxon. This is why here we can apply something that we need afterwards. And of course we can convert this to plain string, for example, to ISO or whatever we need. Also, as I already said, I use time zones a lot in every project. This is why it is really nice that you are getting time zones with Luxon out of the box. So let's say that we want now to take our local date and local time that we created now and put it in the time zone of America, New York. And for this we simply need to write set zone, and here will be a string of our zone. So here will be America/New York. And actually we need to check it somehow if it's working or not. This is why here we can convert our result just directly to string, and then we can check the time. As you can see here, the time now is 15:34, and actually I can just console log here directly my time now, so it will be luxon.datetime.local. And let's compare it now. As you can see, of course, this is datetime, and we need to call here to string in order to be able to read it. As you can see here, we have different times because the time zone is different. Of course, when we are just using datetime local, we generate the date with local time zone. And now here, just to change the time zone, we are using set zone, and this is it. So this is super easy, and this is how I want to work with dates. Now, let's say that we have this date, local and then set zone America, and now we want to get what date we had like 1 week ago. And actually we don't need to write a lot of code for this. We can just say minus, and here we can say that we have object as a parameter, and we're saying here weeks equals 1. And as you can understand, here we can also write hours, years, weeks, days, whatever we need to. This is why it is super readable. Here we see, okay, we have local date, then we are setting time zone, then we are making -1 week. Actually, even if you never saw Luxon, it will be really easy for you to read. And now let's check what we have. As you can see, now we have the same date, but -week, which means it is working. Now after this, let's say that we want to get a start of the day, because as you can see here, I am getting the time. And let's say that I want to get the date with start of the day. This is why here we can simply say dot, and here will be a start of, and here will be day. And then when I will reload this page, you can see that our date now is with zeros, which means we don't have time. It is actually 0, which means we just get start of the day. And of course, if you want, for example, end of the day, you can simply say end of day. And in this same case, you will get the end of this current day after -1 week. This is how we can really easy work with Luxon. There are like hundreds of methods there. You can use everything, and this is super readable. But as you can see here, we are getting our string, and actually we can convert it directly to ISO, because normally, of course, we don't have Luxon format at all, for example, in backend, and normally when we are converting dates, at the end we want to get them to ISO. This is why here we can simply say dot, and here will be to ISO. And now let's remove here converting to string, because we don't need it anymore, and we can simply check here our result. So here when you look in browser, you can see that this is exactly ISO date, how for example backend will work with it, and this is exactly format that backend wants from us. And as you can see, this code is super readable. This is just chains and everything is immutable, which means if you have some date and you will just change it, you will never mutate it. What does it mean? For example, here we have something like old date, and we're writing here Luxon datetime local. So we saved here our old date. It doesn't matter what methods of Luxon you are using. For example, here old date and then set zone minus start off and to ISO, you won't change this old day. If we will just write old date here, it won't be changed. So let's check this. Of course, we want to do to string, because in other case it won't be easy to read this. And now I will reload the page. As you can see here, I have today's date. So this is local time, and this is the date what we changed. This is why it's completely safe to use Luxon, because you won't have any name collisions or any problems with mutating data. Also, it is tree-shakeable, so you can import some specific function that you need from Luxon, and it supports time zones and translations, manipulating, parsing days, and so on. This is why I highly recommend it if you need to work with datetime in your next project. And of course, you might say, okay, I don't want to install library. It is fine for me to use natively dates in JavaScript. And this is completely fine if you have not a lot of code. But when you start to work with dates more and more, actually you will just simply create the same functions like in every library to work with dates efficiently. This is exactly the same case like using a Lodash library or Ramda library if you just want a bunch of functions which don't exist in plain JavaScript, but you want to write your code in a better way. I hope that this video helped you to understand what library do you need in order to work with dates in JavaScript efficiently. And if you're still using Moment.js, this is really nice time to switch to another library. Also, don't forget to check my full courses on various web technologies that I have, and I will link everything regarding them in the description box below. And if you like this video and you want more content like this, don't forget to put some thumbs and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you in my next video.